Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show. Very excited to bring you another episode full of information, some great analysis as well. I'm going to get to our guest. Very excited to bring him in. But before I do want to give a shout out to our partners at betonline.ag. Head over there today. The online casino, it's always open. We got Major League Baseball, golf, racing. Like I was talking about with Josh Pate, they could be playing Norwegian hockey, and they're going to have a spread on it. Whether you like the sharps, parlays, props, teasers, pleasers, geezers, however you get down, head over to betonline.ag today and tell them that Jboy sent you. But as I said, very excited to bring on a guest, first time on the program from auburnsports.com. The Auburn Rivals affiliate does an unbelievable job. Senior editor, football analyst, basketball analyst, guy's just a sports connoisseur, does a great job recruiting as well. Unbelievable source go-to as well there, Mr. Jeffrey Lee. Jay Lee, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Definitely, and I appreciate you coming on. Excited to get you on, and there's a lot happening. I know we're kind of in that zone right after spring practice. If you're looking at it from a lot of SEC school standpoints, Auburn, Alabama, kind of the local teams, and then getting ready for the season. You'll have your summer reporting and some recruiting. Just when you look at the spring from Auburn's circumstance, just kind of overarching, what did you think about it? Do you think it was successful under new head coach Brian Harsin, his first crack at it with his new staff?
Yeah, I do. I was impressed with what little we got to see this spring, which was an open practice on Saturday a couple of weeks ago, and then of course the A-Day game last weekend. I think it was very important to get in there, and you hear him mention culture a lot, and it was a good opportunity for him to get in there and establish his culture with these guys that are returning, as well as the guys that will be in this summer. Still a lot to do on the offensive line. I think that was probably the biggest issue coming out of last year, and will continue to be the biggest issue going into the summer. But you saw some what we consider improvements, at least from the coach's perspective. So it'd be curious to see how they line up. But September 4th.
Yeah. I believe it is September 4th. And yeah, Jeffrey, it was interesting to me. Obviously, seeing Auburn go back under center again. I hadn't seen that in a while. Kind of some shades of 2004 memories there with Al Bordas in that system. But using the tight ends, and you're not going to see a ton in the spring game. You know that. I know that. They were pretty base formationally, even though you saw them in 11 and 12 personnel a lot. But I did think when I was looking at it, they were trying to take advantage of multiple layers of the field. It wasn't just screen game wide. You saw them hit that now screen a few times to Kobe Hudson. Then they had the slip screen off of it inside when they motioned to the field. Just seeing Auburn use the tight ends, number one, how interesting was that for you? And number two, how did you feel that Bo Nix, and again, the stats, I don't really look at the stats in this game. I look at the way he operated. How do you think Bo Nix operated in that two-part question there? I'm breaking a rule, but hey, it is what it is.
First of all, the going under center, to me, as an old school guy, I really like to see that. I like to see the versatility of an offense. I feel like this offense under Mike Bobo is much more complex, more complicated for defenses, which I think is big for Auburn, a huge improvement from what we got used to under Gus Malzahn, regardless of who his offensive coordinator was. It seems like, to the amateur eye, it seemed like he had 5 plays that you just choose from, whichever the down and distance was. It was good to see, like you talked about, the multiple levels of the field, the pass routes, the pass trees, the route trees, and using the running backs differently, being able to include them more in the passing game. What was the second part?
The second part is when you watch Bo Nix operate, just the decision making. Brian Harsin said in his post-game press conference too, he gave Bo Nix the ability to check, which means, listen, you're going up there with 2 plays basically, and this way you don't have to check with me on the sideline. Just how do you think Bo Nix operated the whole deal?
I was impressed with Bo Nix. We saw improvement from him. You saw him kind of go back to some of the times throughout the A-Day game, kind of retreating, but you could tell he was trying really hard to stay in that pocket, and you can tell he's getting coached better. And you got to remember, Bo's a really smart player.
Yeah,
I think at times last year you saw a lot of frustration in Bo, maybe because he didn't quite agree with some of the calls or some of the things that were coming into him. I think respect is big with a player like that, especially your quarterback. And I think he respects, and it's not like he's come out and said this, but I think he respects what Mike Bobo, what Brian Harsin are doing, are trying to do with him and the offense. And I think you could see that in his demeanor throughout the spring.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right on, Jeffrey. I think they speak the same language a little bit more, those two, and kind of think on the same level. And we talked about the offensive line. Obviously, you can have the best quarterbacks, you can have the best skilled players, this, that, and the other. If you can't run the ball, if you can't protect the passer, you're not going to win. That's what separated Auburn and Georgia, in my opinion, in this rivalry, and the gap keeps getting wider. Do you think, Jeffrey, I said on the breakdown, I think they need to go to the portal, at least try and get another tackle. Or some offensive line depth guy. Brandon Council, a lot of people have forgotten about him, but coming off an injury, and he was beat to hell now, Jeff. You know that, and I know that. Brandon Council's beat to hell, and coming back from that's going to be tough. But, he's a strong guy, smart guy. But they, in my opinion, got to go to the portal, get at least one offensive lineman and a receiver. What do you think about that, or do they need to take any action at all, in your opinion?
Well, a chance encounter with at Publix one night.
There we go. That's the greatest story. Start out that way.
I'm walking through there, getting some late night supplies for my son's lunch the next morning, and I look down the aisle, and damn, if that ain't Brian Harsin standing there with his son Davis. This was back before. This was pretty early, and I think this was right before spring. So I took the opportunity to go there and introduce myself. Love the guy, man. I felt bad, but I explained this to him. I was like, man, with this COVID, I haven't been able to get up there and meet you guys face to face. So I had to take this opportunity to come over and say hello. And, he sat there, him and Davis, his son, who was a 2024 quarterback at Auburn High School, really good player coming up. But they were, they were awesome. Just sat there and talked to me for probably 15 or 20 minutes. And, I didn't badger him or anything, but just talking to him, one of the things that I thought was most interesting was him talking about the classifications, the grades are the of the guys on his roster, the offensive tackles on his roster.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the structure is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of top heavy upperclassmen, and he felt like the majority of the guys that he needed to bring in on the offensive line were going to be high school guys. Because I'd asked him about junior college, maybe looking out at the transfer portal, and he and this was, like I said, 2 months ago, but at the time I didn't get the feel he would be pressing hard for a tackle out of the portal. Now that was again before spring. So now that he's seen what he has and what he doesn't have, that could change his mind. But I'm like you and anybody else who looks down there, you would like to be able to go out into the portal, get a guy who can come in and compete immediately for that left tackle spot. But bottom line though is there's just not a lot of those guys out there. You might find a Jack Driscoll, excuse me, you might find a Jack Driscoll to come in and be able to play and end up in the NFL. But it's really tough to find a guy who has that ability, because if he does, why is he leaving?
Yeah.
But it's is that an anomaly? Will they go after a guy? You got to think if there's a guy in the portal or becomes available that they think they can help them, they're certainly going to make a push for him. But yes, wide receiver is another position. We know defensive back, Donovan Kaufman, former 4-star at Vanderbilt, safety. Auburn's pushing hard for him. He could make a decision the next couple of weeks. They've been after these safety. They want to get Ladarius Tennyson back to nickel. And in order to do so, they're going to need somebody to play alongside Smoke Monday. They thought Ty Key Smith could be that guy. He ended up going to Georgia. But now that they've got Donovan Kaufman on the radar, really good relationship with Derek Mason, really good relationship with Zach Etheridge. And Auburn has certainly made him a top priority, and will be pushing to get him in order to, to help get LT back to that nickel spot where he's naturally fit.
Yeah, and he is Ladarius is much more of a true nickel, and the physicality that he plays with is pretty high up there. I think he'll be an upgrade from Tut, and that safety position, being able to solidify that other spot. Because I always joke with people, a nickel can be a hybrid of a linebacker and a safety in a corner. It can be a different body type. And I think Auburn's going to package it a lot, obviously down and distance wise. Some people put that third corner in at that nickel spot. And I'm interested to see Drayshawn Miller too. Speaking of West Virginia transfers, when he gets to Auburn, kind of how that shuffles the deck. Because Jalen Simpson, to me, I really like that kid's game. I think he has a really high ceiling. I'm ready to see how that affects him. But, Jeffrey Lee, it's something we talk about all the time on here. And the importance of when I look at what you're doing, and had Shane Beamer on here, all these head coaches, and the two main important things are recruiting and roster structure. And, you bringing that up about Auburn being top heavy when I think they have 5 junior tackles, I think, in this class, somewhere around there, which is a crazy number because you want to be even. You want to develop guys. And that's why I think you've seen all these offers for these young offensive tackles. And look, if there's one thing that sells in today's world, it's playing time. So maybe that'll help out with some of those 2022 tackles and beyond out there. But would be very interested now that the tape's been played, as you mentioned in spring, if they don't look to the FCS ranks, maybe a guy just to create competition. Because again, it's almost all 2 for 1. You know how it is, Jay Lee. You get one guy in, creates competition, makes the other guy better. Now you get a 2 for 1. But flipping to the defensive side of the ball, and then I want to get into some recruiting and basketball on the other side, Jay Lee. Looking at the defense, you saw Auburn go some 3 down, saw some 0, saw some 4 down. How do you think the defense looked? We talked about a few spots. They may be trying to just add one more guy, one more piece of the puzzle. But I thought, man, Lee Hunter, I think, has a chance to be really good, especially once he keeps figuring it out. And JJ Pegues, your thoughts on him?
A lot of talent, very raw.
Mm-hmm.
It looked as though he had only been at that position for 4 practices. I mean, what else do you?
Yeah,
expect? Yeah, I didn't expect to see Nick Fairley, in the mold of Nick Fairley out there, making that transition. I thought we saw some good things from him, just from a talent standpoint. You can tell that he's strong. He probably needs to get stronger in his upper body. But I think it was a fantastic move. I think I applaud the kid for welcoming the move.
Yeah,
because I think that we all think that he can make a lot more money over there than he can at HBAC. Somebody posted on the bunker, Pegues was more of a novelty at tight end. Sure, he can make some blocks, but it's not something that he can't come over there and do if have a package
exactly right.
on offense.
That's exactly right.
I think he can help the team out a lot more on the defensive line. But the defensive line, that open practice, they stuck all the media down in the south end zone, southwest end zone, which was right in front of Nick Eason and the defensive line. So I got a really up close view of them, and man, they. Definitely talented, man. I tell you, they look the part. Probably what, a little young. Truesdale, but you're looking at Lee Hunter, you're looking at Zeke Walker, Jay Hardy, Jaron Handy, Dre Butler. A lot of good-looking guys. Of course, you've got Derek Hall, Kobe Wooden. Man, they really look like. To me, when I was sitting there watching them, I'm thinking, this is probably what. Georgia's defensive line or Alabama's defensive line looked like 2 years ago when they've got these young guys coming in. They look the part. Probably still a little inexperienced and raw when it comes to game time. But as far as on the hoof, man, it's exactly what you want your defensive line to look like.
Yeah, and I think Nick Eason actually walked into a pretty decent situation. And with his tutelage, I would not be surprised to see Derek Hall or Kobe Wooden get some postseason honors. I look at Derek Hall, you talk about a physical specimen coming off the edge. I think that guy's got all the ability in the world. I'm interested to see if it translates with Nick Eason, who in the NFL, you tend to teach a lot more fundamentals because there is no recruiting. There is no academics. So I'm interested to see that.
Hey, real quick, want to make sure you guys know we are partnered with the best subscription fishing company around. That's monsterbass.com. Head over there today. That's monsterbass.com. And if you use the promo code JBOY10, that's JBOY10, then you get 15% off your first order. It's a subscription fishing service. So you tell them where you're at, where you fish. They'll send you the most up-to-date bait, lures, topwater, jigs, whatever. These guys, they're on point. I promise you, they've got great merchandise as well, a whole slew of stuff. Check them out at monsterbass.com. Use that promo code JBOY10 to save 15% off today.
Here with senior editor from auburnsports.com, having a great time with Mr. Jeffrey Lee. And Jeff, we talked some spring practice with Auburn going into this season. Before we get to the recruiting, when you look at this schedule, and I'm going to have my big, post-spring predictions, which preseason predictions do not matter, but ours do. So check them out. Make sure you check them out and hit subscribe everywhere. But Jeffrey, when you look at this schedule, you start out with Akron, you got Alabama State, you never overlook anybody. Then you got a nice little test up in Happy Valley with James Franklin and the boys. Yeah,
man, that's going to really tell us a lot about the culture of this team and what kind of season we could expect. A big game. I'm really excited to see it. I think it'd be a great test. I think it lines up perfectly too. You have those 2 games before that, as we've all come to know them as cupcake games. And like you said, you can't look past anybody, but as Auburn, you would like to be able to look past.
Yeah, we can.
Exactly. You'd like to be able to pencil them in, even with a ballpoint pen as a W. But get the kinks out, get any guys that are making new starts, position changes or anything like that. About the 3rd game of the year, everybody's sitting comfortably. You go on the road to Penn State in that stadium, in that environment, and you do so with an experienced quarterback, which is going to be key, and with probably the best or one of the best running backs in the country. You get that offensive line clicking by game 3, and the defense is settling in and playing up to their potential, which is very high. I think it'll be a great game, a great young test, and a winnable game. Maybe I'm a little optimistic for this team, but I like what I've seen so far, man. And I think that kind of sets up nicely for having those 2 games before that, and then heading up to Death Valley. Yeah, and then Brian Harsin, welcome to the SEC. You go to LSU, then you get Georgia at home. But again, it'll be a good test. It'll let us know. And like you said, it's a winnable game. Penn State didn't, set the roof on fire. I don't care how fast Micah Parsons runs a 40 in last year. Just look at the scores of the game. So it's really interesting. Auburn and Penn State, a little bit of tradition there. I remember, whether it's in the bowl game where it seemed like Auburn would just play some, whether it's Michigan or Penn State or somebody, and then playing them with Ronnie Brown, I believe. Jumped over a guy. I believe that was Penn State. But I do want to transition here, Jay Lee, and talk about some recruiting. You have some Auburn fans that are worried about recruiting. You have some Auburn fans that aren't worried about recruiting. You look at the commit list, it's 3 deep right now. Holden Gariner, a guy that I really like at quarterback, continues to rise. He's got a great arm. I think he's got the ability to throw all the pitches, has touch and stuff like that. What do you think about Brian Harsin and his staff's recruiting so far? And really more than the method, more than the madness, I guess, Jay Lee. Okay, that's fair. The method is different than what I've ever seen, and you're bringing in an outsider, really. So of course, I've never seen it before, but they are big on this culture thing. They haven't been able to meet these kids face to face. There's no pre-existing relationships much with his assistant coaches. 4 guys coming with him from Boise. Zach coming from Houston. Of course, he's got ties here. Cornelius Williams has got ties in the state. Mike Bobo in South Georgia, but they're not limiting themselves to these 4 states. Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida. They're going out, and I really like this in the fact that, and I think I talked about this not too long ago, but Auburn doesn't win traditionally. They don't win a lot of recruiting battles against Alabama, against Georgia. They just don't. And instead of spinning their wheels against for these guys. Don't get me wrong, they're going after them, but they're not putting all their eggs in this basket, only to get to the, December the 1st and lose out to all these guys, to Alabama and Georgia. They're going after some other guys nationally. They're going up Northeast, they're going to Pennsylvania, they're going to Maine, they're going to Connecticut, Wisconsin, Michigan, they're going all of California. They're going Darius Clemens from the 4-star receiver from Oregon. They're using their connections there, bringing him in for an official visit. I like that they're spreading their ground and trying not to just spin their wheels against some of these guys that traditionally Auburn just doesn't get. Yeah, no, it's a great point, and it's amazing. While Alabama and Georgia are able to get all these local guys, they recruit nationally too. They're out there African guys. I mean, look at the quarterbacks from Alabama and Georgia right now. Not only from the West Coast, they're both from the same damn high school, from Mater Dei out there. So you see what the national recruiting does. I think it's a great point, Jay Lee, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. All of a sudden, you miss out a couple guys on signing day, and you don't have a backup plan, and now your roster's uneven, and you missed out maybe on some guys. So I agree, man. I think it's a great structure. I like the staff that they've brought in, and when you look at
who they have in the future. We all know how, hopefully it's getting back to normal with, camps and stuff at some point this summer. We know when the dead period ends, hopefully being able to see people live and in person and stuff like that, we get back to normal. But do you see Auburn getting a couple commitments here early in the summer? You talked about Donovan Kaufman and that relationship there, but are there a few guys, Latrell Jones, I believe I said that right, the junior college wide receiver. I got a feeling he's close, but do you think you'll start seeing some more commitments come in the bag? Because we all know that's how fans either get excited or not. That's on a commitment. That's it.
Right. And you've got to understand that these rankings right now are, more subjective than ever.
Without a doubt.
We just haven't been able to. We went to Atlanta yesterday and saw some guys, up close and got to see them in person. But a lot of these kids have not been ranked like that, have not been evaluated like that. But you talked about Latrell Jones. Yes. You talked about Donovan Kaufman. Yes. I would expect both of those guys. I think Auburn's the team to beat for both of those guys. Let's put it that way. Emory Floyd, the defensive back from Georgia, is coming in for an official visit June the 4th. I think, Auburn's leaving for him. I think he could commit soon thereafter. So yeah, there's some guys on the brink, and to get this ball rolling. But as I've preached to my subscribers, need to be patient with this staff right now.
Yep.
They're not going to come in this summer and just start racking up the commitments. They're going to need to build relationships. They're going to need to win. They're going to need to at least show some progress at Auburn before these guys start jumping on board. But being able to get all these kids to come in, they've got, I think, over 20 guys right now scheduled for official visits in June. And I think what I love seeing from the staff, you talked about the method, is, they're going to do their best with this 2022 class with the coaches that they have. There, it wasn't a big splash Southeast hire, Brian Harsin. So a lot of these kids, aren't, instantly jazzed as a Georgia kids were when Kirby Smart comes over.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Kirby Smart. Everybody's excited about him. Everybody knows him from recruiting. But you don't know Brian Harsin. You don't know a lot of the guys on his staff. Mm-hmm. So there's not a big, wow factor when he was hired. So there's not going to be a lot of, excitement initially. But I think what this staff is doing is they're doing their best right now, trying to get these kids. I think you'll see a lot of 2023 kids get on campus in June for unofficial visits. We're talking about the official visits of 2022 guys.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of 23 and 24 because those are the classes that the staff can be on an even playing field with other schools as far as developing relationships with. They're obviously behind on the 2022 guys. They can't compete on a personal level with the relationship that Georgia coaches have been able to do, Alabama coaches have been able to do, Florida State. But they can be on the same page when it comes to these younger guys. And I think you'll see a lot of attention shown to these 23 kids and 24 kids in the month of June and July. June's going to be full every weekend of official visits. And then throughout the month, they're going to have camps. Yeah. Auburn's camps is going to kick up in June. So I think you'll see a lot of underclassmen coming, a lot of relationships being built, a lot of offers we've already seen going out to these 23 kids. And I think that's where Auburn's expecting to see the biggest jump in at least recruiting rankings when it comes to, getting these guys. I think the 23 class is the one we really need to judge the staff on, not the 2022.
Yeah, and it's such a marathon, not a sprint. And this, and I know a lot of the fans and audience are very well taught of and schooled on. This doesn't happen in 1 week. Hey, guess what? You're offered. Oh, I'm going to commit. I mean, it's years and years and years, and continuity is a real thing. They've had it at Georgia. They've had a decent amount of it at Alabama. And then when you win like that, obviously you're able to bring guys in. But you're exactly right, Jay Lee. And before I let you go, got to talk some basketball. Just craziness with this transfer portal. This has been the most wild thing I've seen, really from any recruiting standpoint. This has been the craziest. In college basketball, it seems, has been the most, featured attraction when it comes to the transfer portal. And you look at Auburn, really the SEC in general, with who teams have brought in all the way down to Vanderbilt. But you look at this roster; it's almost a brand new roster. You've got Wendell Green, you've got Zeb Jasper, really good ads, Walker Kessler, a great ad. And then you have Trey Alexander, ended up decommitting from Auburn, deciding to go somewhere else. Just first, Jay Lee, your thoughts on the new transfers that Bruce Pearl's brought in, and then we'll get to the Trey Alexander deal.
Love the transfers. What we saw last season was a lack of ball handlers on this team. That was it was Auburn's biggest fault last year. You had Shareef Cooper for 12 games, but when he was not in the game or not playing in the game, there was nothing. You had Justin Powell trying to run some point. You had West Flanagan. You had Allen Flanagan.
Yeah.
Wes could run the point.
Wes could still probably run the point.
Allen, not so much. And I think he unfairly took a beating from some of the fans because he was asked to do something he's not probably the best at doing. You put Allen at the 2 or the 3, he's fantastic. I don't think he gets enough credit, man, because people see him trying to run the point and turning the ball over. His turnover to assist ratio was dreadful. And so I think Auburn had to absolutely address the ball handling needs. They went out and got Wendell Green, who I think is fantastic.
Yeah, he's a witch. He's a witch.
He's as close to Shareef Cooper when it comes to ball handling is probably Auburn could have hoped for out of the transfer portal. Fantastic. I love him. Love his game. Zep Jasper, the same thing. Really good ball handler. Fantastic on-ball guard, on-ball defender. Just I love, Bruce Pearl. We know how much he loves defense. Probably wasn't Shareef Cooper's strong suit last year, but I think this is an upgrade when it comes to defense from your point guard. So you got 2 really good point guards coming in. You got Desi Seals from Arkansas, who also can play the point. He can. He's a creator, man. I really like his game. He lit Auburn up for 23 and 20, I think, last year in the 2 games. Had an injury, and I don't think he really meshed well with Musselman up there in Arkansas. I think Desi, likes to freestyle, which is okay with Bruce as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do under his umbrella. But Wes Flanagan was really familiar with Desi, so bringing those 3 guards in. Desi's more of a 2. Whereas Zep could probably play 1 or 2. Wendell is your true 1, I think. And then losing, of course, Trey Alexander. I
know what you're feeling. I know what you're dancing around right now. Because I thought, and I'll say it, I'll say it. And I don't want to put you in a bad spot. I don't think the kid handled it right. When it's never a good idea to come out and bash the school that, number one, you're signed to. Regardless of how good you feel about it. But I think him saying that Bruce and them didn't keep their word. Now, look, I wasn't in the room when this was said, but it's not like Justin Powell is still at Auburn. I mean, there's a few other things that happen, and you got to have depth. And look, if you don't want to compete, then you're not going to be able to play for Bruce Pearl. That's just that is what it is. And again, Trey, I'm sure he's a great kid, sure he's a competitor, whatever, but I don't think he handled that situation. It sounded like sour grapes to me.
Yeah, and it did. And what was so confusing to me, and maybe ironic in a way, is he was accusing Auburn of not keeping their word when he had signed a scholarship but was wanting out.
Yeah.
Auburn lost 4 guards. They replaced them with 4 guards. He was one of them. I'm sorry that they weren't going to make it easy for you, Trey. I'm sorry that you're going to have to come in and compete. I mean, what did he really expect? Did he, at some point does he go, oh man, that's 3 guards, and they didn't keep their word. They said it was going to be easy for me, and now it's not. I'm going to have to work. I'm out. And I'm sure Oklahoma, having a new coach, probably weighed in on that. But if he doesn't want to compete, if he doesn't want to come here, good for him. Let him go. Move on.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I wonder, my last question for you, I got a couple more. I do want to hit Walker Kessler because I know that's a big one for Auburn, and pairing him and Jabari Smith next to each other. It's an absolute tree festival down there at the 5 and the 4. I wonder, you look at Auburn, the way they're going to close this class out. Akinjo going to Baylor was a huge pickup for them. That's what happens when you win the national championship. You can just go out and get guys whenever you want them, basically.
Luke Davis, replace him with Akinjo.
Yeah. You look at Scoot Henderson. Is he a guy that's going to reclassify? To me, I think the minute he stepped on campus, if he was, he'd be Auburn's best guard, but that's just me. That kid is absolutely electricity. But how do you see Auburn? Because they're going to have to fill that guard spot. They're going to have to get another guard, at least in my opinion. And I wonder too, does Stretch feel kind of like the odd man out right now?
Probably. But you know what? If there was anybody to feel like the odd man out and be okay with it,
that's exactly
Stretch.
right.
I mean, he just loves freaking Auburn, man. And he loves it. He loves, and I'm not saying he won't eventually look for another place to play, but he absolutely loves where he is and what he's doing. I love Stretch. What a dude. But with Trey Alexander going, you've got 11 on scholarship right now with the 5 new additions. You've got 2 open spots. Obviously, one's going to be reserved for Scoot Henderson. JT Thor, he's not coming back. I mean, technically he could, but nobody, I don't think anybody at Auburn expects this kid to return. So you've got one open spot. They want that combo guard. They want a guy who can play the point, who can handle the ball, but also more importantly, they need a 40% 3-point shooter. They need a scorer. They need a guy who can light it up. And the good thing about this, I guess it's good and bad. The transfer portal is, the deadline to enter it without losing immediate eligibility is July the 1st. So a lot of time you get James Akinjo coming in, of course you're going to jump all in on him.
Yep.
So, every day they're Auburn's checking the transfer portal. Who's open? Who's coming open? Who's getting in? Who do we want to target? Does he fit here? So not a lot of rush from what I can tell in filling that last spot. When I say the last spot, one of them's going to Scoot if he wants it, and he'll have that spot. That's Scoot's spot. There's one open spot.
Yeah.
That they'll go to the transfer portal in hopes of finding that combo guard, a shooter who can also play the one. No names right now. Checked this morning before I came on. No really top targets right now in the transfer portal. But a lot of time, 2.5 months. A lot of guys can come open in that time span. So Auburn's just going to be patient, see what the options are throughout the next 2.5 months, and then just go from there. But you're talking about 11 right now. That on paper should be able to play against anybody.
It's a lot different, and it's just amazing the irony. Auburn has this unbelievable roster, and Tony Barbie just took the head job at Central Michigan. Good luck, Chippewas. Go do y'all's thing. For any Auburn/Central Michigan fan out there, I'm sure it's just been an absolute wild 3 or 4 days. I'm very interested to see in the 4 households where that's actually happening. But Jay Lee, great stuff, man. I really appreciate it. We got to do this again. I know you're a busy man. Football season will be here before we know it. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media. You do great work, man. And like I said, I really appreciate it. It's good seeing you, man.
Yeah, Jboy.
Yeah, you know me, man.
Yeah, auburnsports.com, auburnrivals.com, Jay Lee AU Rivals on Twitter, and got some exciting things coming. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. Keep doing your thing, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you guys for joining us as well. Make sure you head over to the jboyshow.com, get some of that merchandise. You listen, regardless of who you root for, SEC, beyond, whatever your school is, we've got more crazy stuff coming up, unbelievable stuff. So also subscribe to the Jboy Show channel on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. Going to keep you the most informed audience that there is to help you win the water cooler. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show, and Jboy's gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.